Talk of the Bay, KSQD's local talk program, brought to you every weekday at 5 p.m. I'm your host, Suki Wessling, and first I wanted to let you know that I am transitioning from Talk of the Bay soon to my show called The Babblery. The Babblery is a monthly show featuring stories about women's lives that will be aired on KSQD on the first Monday at 6 p.m. starting in August. If you want to get on the email list for The Babblery, visit www.babblery.com, and that is spelled Babble, Babblery. I have a few more shows on Talk of the Bay, including an interview with Santa Cruz County Health Officer Gail Newell 2 weeks from today, and some specials about the Cabrillo Music Festival at the end of July. Today on Talk of the Bay, I have two guests joining me to talk about the Santa Cruz Hostel. Sarah Tinger is general manager of the Santa Cruz Hostel. Sarah was a hostel manager and then business owner in Nashville, Tennessee, before starting at the Santa Cruz Hostel in September of 2021. She has a master's in nonprofit management and lots of international travel experience, including being a Peace Corps volunteer. Welcome, Sarah.
Thank you.
And Terri Fisher-Mastick is the current president of the Santa Cruz Hostel Society, a Santa Cruz local, and an architect who was commissioned to do the historic remodels to the Carmelita cottages, Santa Cruz Hostel. Welcome, Terri.
Thank you. I'm
having a little reading, especially because when I got to the thing about a hostel manager, I was thinking, don't be a hostel manager, really? Okay, enough hostel puns. I think I'm done for tonight. We're going to talk about the hostel, which, I have to say that when this show was suggested to me, I thought, I know nothing about the Santa Cruz Hostel at all. So what I'd like to do is really start with Sarah, if you can start by telling us a little bit about what hostels are and, how they differ from hotels, and then what the Santa Cruz Hostel is.
Yeah, I think one of the most familiar things we hear is there's a hostel in Santa Cruz. So yes, we've been there for 30 years at the Carmelita Cottages, and the hostel is really just a intentional community for people to come and stay at an affordable price while they travel. So you can rent a bed in a shared room or a private room. It's for people of all ages, families, solo travelers, people that are biking the coast.
Yeah, I guess most people think of hostels as youth hostels, but this is not a youth hostel.
No, it is a youth hostel, but I think in traditional sense, people hear youth hostel and they think, 18-year-olds going traveling around after they graduated high school. I would say this hostel is more ages starting maybe in the mid-20s to like the late 50s. We get people from all over the world, lots of people in California. And yeah, it's really a great spot for anybody that wants to travel affordably and help us out at the hostel while they do that.
Oh, and so what do they do to help?
Well, they have to bring their linens in, so their pillowcase and sheets and bed covers into the laundry room. We have a shared kitchen where everybody can come in and cook their own meals to make their travel more affordable. So cleaning up after yourself in that aspect. We also welcome people to volunteer while they're there. We have lots of weeds on property. We have a beautiful garden that can be tended to. So we also welcome that.
Weeds in Santa Cruz? Well, that sounds fun. So I guess the question for locals is probably a lot of us don't know about it because none of us have ever been tourists here. I mean, many of us who moved here were tourists. I remember the first time I came to Santa Cruz. It was the first place I went as a day trip from college. So, I have this picture that I took of two kids playing in the water from the Santa Cruz Wharf, and I still have that picture. So we have those old memories. But what do tourists, what are they looking for when they come to the hostel? What sort of tourists might be interested in it?
Yeah, a lot of people that are looking to chat and meet locals, have more of a locals experience. They are looking for more just a community aspect instead of just going into your hotel room and having your space there and then leaving. But we have community potlucks every Wednesday. Okay. People really enjoy that. We do yoga on the beach. So yeah, just
Various
having
programs.
Group activities. Yeah.
Yeah. So that's definitely different than most hotels.
Yes.
Uh-huh. And so what are some of the things that people have told you about their experiences?
Oh, we get awesome reviews. People love the people that they meet. Our space is very, very clean. We are 2 blocks from the beach, so people love the location. We're 2 blocks from the beach, and we're 2 blocks from downtown. They love that you are going there as a solo traveler, but you're leaving meeting many new friends from all over the place.
Cool.
Yeah,
And
a lot of people end up meeting people there and become fast friends forevermore. They end up continuing traveling with them on to the next destinations, and really nice relationships can be built.
Mm-hmm. And so Terri, what does the Hostel Society do?
The Hostel Society is basically the nonprofit governing board for the hostel, and they basically founded a hostel in Santa Cruz in the 80s, and basically then it was just a seasonal hostel, and they were renting cafeteria rooms from various schools and just housing people that were coming through. And then it evolved into a rented space on Broadway. And then when the Carmelita cottages were became a city property, the Hostel Society looked into trying to renovate the cottages for use as a hostel.
Interesting. So why did they become city property?
The last owner of the property, Lottie Sly, willed them to the city of Santa Cruz to be used as a city park, or if it didn't get used as a city park, then it would go to Stanford University. So Stanford University was sort of like staring down our necks, trying to see if it would end up becoming a park. And early on, a lot of preservationists wanted to preserve the cottages, and so that's when the Hostel Society approached the city to use the cottages as a hostel.
Uh-huh.
And we are a city park.
And so you're a city park.
We are
so
a city
is
park.
it open to the public to walk in?
Yeah, please. You can come look at the gardens. It's beautiful. We have spots to sit. You can chat with travelers.
We, as in the staff, act as the caretakers for the park. So it's our duty to take care of not only the buildings, the structures, but also the park, the premises.
That's amazing. It's like a park that I just found out about that I just never thought even existed in Santa Cruz. That's really cool.
It's a really nice space. Everybody loves it. The gardens are nice.
They do.
The feel of it is just really homey.
Uh-huh. And that's interesting that you were saying that one of the things that the travelers like is interacting with locals, and that would make sense then. How often do people just randomly wander in and
We
hang
get
out?
a lot of people from Beach Hill, where the hostel is, that are just walking the neighborhood, that walk through every day.
Uh-huh.
Yeah.
And we have some great volunteers from the area that wander in to help, and then they commune with the hostelers too, either working with them or just chatting.
Uh-huh.
So it's a really nice atmosphere.
Interesting. And it sounds very Santa Cruz.
Very Santa Cruz.
Very
Our
Santa
office
Cruz.
opens at 9.
Oh, well, that's
Very
from you.
Santa
So
Cruz.
you're from Nashville. That's probably very odd for you.
That is very odd. Usually
and
things
you
open
don't
up
have
pretty
to,
early.
You don't have to wear stockings to work.
And you don't have to.
So when you were talking about the history of it, so let's talk a little bit about where these came from. How old is the oldest one, and who built it, and why is there a group of cottages?
They're all from the late 1800s. 2 of them were built on property, and then the remaining 4 cottages were brought onto the property by one of the owners.
Mm-hmm.
That was his job, was to move property. So he moved 3 of the buildings over to us.
Yeah.
And
Yeah, he was a house mover, and you can tell by the positions of the cottages on the property that they were kind of set on the property with the intention to move on, because they're the entrances are in awkward positions. It's interesting.
That's also very Santa Cruz, having shopped for real estate here. I will tell you, I don't know. When I first moved here, I was looking for a rental, and I found for rent a 19th century sheep shed with 6-foot-tall windows, which was fine for me, but not so great for my future 6-foot-tall husband. Exactly. So I didn't rent the 19th century sheep shed.
Yeah.
What else about the history is interesting?
Well, a lot of the original owners were sea captains, so it has a huge sea captain history, and a lot of the cottages are shaped or formed to look like ships. Oh. They have interior wainscoting that would be reminiscent of how you might do the interior of a ship. The shapes, sort of long and narrow. So a lot of them, and some of the materials sort of came from some of these ships and were adopted into the cottages, or adapted reuse even way back then. So they have interesting shapes and interesting interiors that are reminiscent of ships themselves. Mm-hmm. And so all these various characters that have lived there over time have sort of made their mark on it.
Uh-huh. Do you have any stories about any of the characters who have lived there?
There's plenty. There was... Well, it sounds like there were various people it was a brothel. There was an opera singer, and I think he was the husband of one of the women. I'm not sure if it was Lottie, but the husband of one of the women who lived on site. And so all these various people have come and gone, and there's some people say that there's a friendly ghost that walks the site. So
of course.
I don't know that I've seen the friendly ghost.
Okay,
I've
Sarah.
heard that too.
Have you seen it?
I have not, but I tell them I welcome them if they want to say hello to me.
Okay,
yeah, exactly.
And what's the friendly ghost lore? I mean, we got to hear this.
So Captain Dame is the main one, I feel like, that I hear about the most. And in Captain Dame Cottage, there used to be a door where there is no longer a door now. So they say that they see him standing there smoking his pipe, watching out at the water to see how the water is.
Uh-huh.
Which I've had ones recently also say that they've seen him, so who knows?
Yeah. We keep hearing of sightings, but I haven't seen them personally.
Well, it's the age of the digital camera, people. Come on.
Yeah, exactly.
I want a picture. I want photographic evidence. So how many people, if it's full up, how many people could stay there?
Yeah, we have 42 beds and we can host up to 48 people.
Uh-huh.
So it's really a unique space. There's 6 cottages, so there's private rooms. The dorm rooms have up to 6 beds in them, so it's 3 sets of bunk beds. Yeah, I mean, it's really just a unique space. A lot of first-time hostelers come in, and they are just in awe. Mm-hmm. And I tell them not to compare us to everybody else, because this will be the best one by far.
There are some interesting ones, though. I mean, I know that there are some, like, in lighthouses and stuff. So
there's beautiful ones up the coast that are... We're an HI affiliate, but there's also a Hostel International up the coast from us that I would highly recommend. They're beautiful lighthouses right on the water that you can stay at.
So how do you find out about them?
Well, this you can go on to like hiusa.com, and you can also find us on there. Mm-hmm. But you can find out more about us just directly on our website.
Uh-huh. Okay, and what's your website?
SantaCruzHostel.com.
There you go. Okay, well, that was an easy one. And if somebody was thinking about coming here, what are the things? I mean, do they generally do really the basically touristy things, or do you have people looking for something in particular that's different?
I'd say in Santa Cruz it's pretty traditional. They want to go to the beach. They want to go to the mystery spot, go to the wharf, walk downtown. I always tell people go find a banana slug in the redwoods. A lot of unique travelers coming down, biking the whole coast, so all the way from Canada down to Mexico.
Wow.
Yeah, people are here doing all sorts of things. They're here for one night or they're here for a week.
We do have groups, and we encourage groups because we think the site works out well for group activities.
Yes, for sure.
Because we do have like a communal kitchen, and the groups can make their own meals. Also, we end up having a lot of people that come for specific events, sort of like wharf to wharf or something, and people will just fill the hostel, and it's a block from the start. So, various events that are happening in Santa Cruz, people come and
or trying out surfing for the first time.
Right. Yeah.
You can walk your surfboard or your paddleboard right to Main Beach.
Wow.
So it's a perfect spot.
Sounds really fun. Well, we are going to come back and talk a little bit more about the history and about hosteling and all of that in just a second. You are listening to Talk of the Bay, and we are going to take a short break, and we'll be right back.
So, you've tried selling that extra car, tried giving it away, maybe even tried to fix it yourself, and you're still stuck with it. Here's a thought: donate it to K-Squid. Click the support tab at ksqd.org to get started.
Join K-Squid tonight, this evening, right after Talk of the Bay for Peace Talks Radio. News of war, conflict, and political divisiveness fill our media. The Peace Talks radio series helps counterbalance that with talk about making peace in our daily lives and information on topics that relate to a more peaceful world, locally, nationally, and globally. That is Peace Talks Radio tonight at 6 p.m. here at K-Squid. Oh, and this is an old promo, and it says here at K-Squid 90.7 FM and ksqd.org. ksqd.org is still very current. However, I am now supposed to say here at K-Squid 89.5, 89.7, 90.7 FM up and down the Central Coast. Maybe some of you listening out in Prunedale might be thinking weekend in Santa Cruz. Oh, the Santa Cruz Hostel sounds great. So I am your host, Suki Wessling, and I am speaking with two people from the Santa Cruz Hostel. I have got Sarah Tinger, who is general manager of the Santa Cruz Hostel, and Terri Fisher-Mastick, who is the current president of the Santa Cruz Hostel Society. And so we've been talking a little bit about the past and present, and I wanted to ask you, Terri, about so you're an architect, yeah?
Yes.
Okay. And so how did you get involved with the renovation, and when did the renovation happen? Why? How did you get involved?
Well, that's a good one, because I've always been interested in adaptive reuse of existing buildings, and what I found is once becoming involved with HIUSA, they were reusing existing buildings, like you said, lighthouses, and various types of structures for use as a hostel. So I really became involved with HIUSA in general, and then did various hostels throughout California and did some advising on hostels throughout the U.S. So I just really enjoy taking an existing building and adapting a new use, and these were just prime for it because they're so comfortable.
Mm-hmm. And so, yeah, it sounds like so you've become sort of a specialist in hostels.
I guess you could call it that.
Did that happen intentionally, or you just sort of fell into it?
Fell into it, and I think it's just because of I was on the Historic Preservation Commission for the County of Santa Cruz, and I just believe in history and the adaptive reuse. So, and I am a hosteler. Mm-hmm. I've hosteled throughout Europe, and I was familiar with hostels and really believe in the spirit of hosteling. So the two just melded what I like to do in architecture well together.
All right. Well, you actually said two things that I'd like to follow up on. One was adaptive reuse. So what is adaptive reuse?
Taking an existing structure, usually with a different pre-use, and adapting it for a new use. For instance, these were individual residences, and then when they were willed to the city, then they became part of a park. And owned by the city. So adopting these cottages for use as a hostel. And so then I was commissioned by the then Santa Cruz Hostel Society to do the architecture, and then they gradually just wheeled me into being on the board.
Amazing how nonprofits do
kind of
that.
pulled me in. So
Here at K-Squid, we never reel in unsuspecting supporters who we would want to volunteer for us. No, we would never do such a thing.
yeah, I'm currently involved with one in Monterey. So hi to Monterey down there, and we're working on a building that was a carpenter's hall, and it has been a hostel. It has been an HI hostel, and is currently being renovated, still for use as a hostel. So that's soon to be completed.
So when you renovate something to be a hostel, give us some examples of some of the things that you've had to do with the local buildings, and what you might have to do with something that wasn't a residence before.
Number one, accessibility. So there's a certain amount of accessibility required per code for transient type use, and so we have to make at least a portion of the building or accessible to the public. And then the other part is like converting what might have been either a residential kitchen to be able to be more on the order of a commercial kitchen for use for community use. So some of this depends on the size of the hostel, whether it ends up having to be full commercial or whether they're still considered a light residential. So it depends on the building, but some of them are a single building and you're putting all of the rooms in one building, but we have ours scattered all over the site because of the just the style of the structures. So and I'm guessing that part of this adaptive reuse is adapting to the second question, which is, what is spirit of hosteling? What is that? It's a very communal style of travel, and really encourage people to visit with each other and get to know each other. And hosteling often ends up having programs that are designed to bring people together. So rather than being an individual hosteler, we encourage that you visit with others. And the idea is to kind of create more harmony and friendships around the world through hosteling. So. And Sarah, you have been involved in hostels. You just moved here. Actually, you're still a newbie.
I do still feel like a newbie.
Yeah.
She's blending in very well.
Oh, okay. Well, yeah. You
She's liking it.
You ditched the suit and the stockings, so you're okay,
right.
Good. Yeah. So tell us what got you interested in hostels.
Yeah, I traveled a lot and used hostels. When I moved to Tennessee, I had just graduated and I had just gotten out of Peace Corps and was wondering, what do I want to do next?
So where did you grow up? Where are you from before that?
I'm from Wisconsin.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. But coming to Nashville, I was looking for a job and just didn't find a job that I felt like suited me. So then I kind of turned over to, what's something more travel related? Just getting done with the Peace Corps, it just seemed like a good fit. And I just happened to walk by a hostel in Nashville, which I did not know was there. And they were hiring.
Whoa.
So,
okay,
yeah,
there you go.
So I was excited and got on as part of their management team. That hostel was a little bit different. It's 350 beds compared to our 42-bed hostel here in Santa Cruz. But had great experience there. Used it to open up my own business, which was not a hostel, and then over the pandemic, I had to shut down my business, but then this opportunity became available. So they needed somebody here within the month, and I said, I can be there in anytime you need me to, if you need me to move to Santa Cruz.
Wow. It sounds like you've had a sort of series of fortuitous accidents with hostels.
I'd say that's kind of my life. All very positive.
Yeah. And so did you use hostels before you started working in the one in Tennessee?
Yeah, I traveled around a lot in Europe. I studied abroad. I try really to use hostels anytime. It really is just such a huge money saver, especially with, being able to make your own food. And as a solo traveler, you just get to meet so many people and find people to travel with while you're there. It was a good fit for me. And I feel like this, as being a nonprofit also, it just makes me happy.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
It's like one of the things we're not emphasizing is that we are low-cost lodgings. And one of the purviews for the city of Santa Cruz is they ended up wanting to have some low-cost lodging to counter the higher-cost lodgings coming into the city. And so that's how the Hostel Society sort of came on board to basically handle that for them in a sense. Mm-hmm. So we really don't really concentrate on the low-cost lodging aspect of it, but more of the communal aspect
mm-hmm.
of it. But it all helps the long-term traveler, persons that are on the road for a really long time. It helps to just really cut the costs so that they can just keep going.
Uh-huh. Yeah. So I wanted to say, if you've just tuned in, that you're listening to K-Squid, and you may be listening to us in lots of different places all of a sudden if you have just turned the dial and wondering what the heck you're listening to. This is K-Squid in Santa Cruz, and we are now stretching through the Central Coast, and this is Talk of the Bay, which is our daily weekday news program. We do local news, and we are dedicated to stretching our local news outside of Santa Cruz, down the coast. So if you are listening to this and you have ideas for stories for Talk of the Bay having to do with our wider area, please do contact us. You can go to our website, ksqd.org, and you can click the Contact Us button and send us ideas for stories. Or if you want to volunteer, send us ideas for what you'd like to do. We are really excited to be reaching so many more people than we were only, last week? Something like that. So if you are interested in the expansion, you can go to our website also, and we have some stories about that and how it was done. It was pretty exciting. So back to Talk of the Bay. I am talking with Sarah Tinger, General Manager of Santa Cruz Hostel, and Terri Fisher-Mastick, who is current President of the Santa Cruz Hostel Society. And you're a nonprofit.
Yes.
And you just got a grant. Can you tell us about the grant?
Well, originally what helped start the hostel, the renovation of the hostels, was a grant that we received from the Coastal Conservancy of California, and that money ended up helping with the renovation of the first two cottages plus our little cyclery building. And so then income from the overnights just ended up helping us produce the renovations of the next cottages. We just moved through it slowly after that. But recently we ended up applying for and receiving a grant from the Coastal Conservancy again for renovations to the hostel, mainly to be able to provide, they're looking for more low-cost lodging along the coast, and we are able to provide another room, a few more beds. Mm-hmm. And also, during COVID, we discovered that opinion was, or people preferred to have a little bit more privacy, and so we are doing some renovations to be able to have a few more private rooms and a little bit more private area for the hostel. So that was something that the Coastal Conservancy looked kindly upon, and we were able to receive a grant. So we're in the middle of getting the building permits ready for that.
Now, I read, maybe this was not exactly correct, that you are building a whole new cottage or just building additions?
We are renovating a cottage.
You're renovating.
Yeah, we're not building another one, but we're making one that is currently storage into a sleeping room with a bath.
Okay.
Yeah,
excellent.
Yeah,
excellent. And that must be exciting and a lot of work. How do you? So how much of your revenue comes from the guests' fees, and how much do you have to raise? Do you know approximately the percentage?
Most of it's from overnights.
Okay.
We end up, we always appreciate any kind of donations to the hostel. A lot of the time we get them more in kind or materials rather than necessarily funds. We're always looking for any donations that might come our way. But the fees, being a nonprofit, most of the fees go back into our staff or back into maintaining the structures, and that's, we just reinvest it into the property and our staff.
Right. I mean, the first year for me was kind of getting to know the Santa Cruz Hostel, but this year I'm kind of trying to really focus on the nonprofit aspect of it. So getting those in-kind donations for things that we always somehow lose, coffee mugs, spoons,
silverware,
new linens for the rooms, just lumber for new screens we have to build, things like that. But the money that we would bring in would also bring more programming and give us flexibility with things like that we want to start doing but don't have the money for right now. I'm also looking to change one of the back rooms in the hostel into like a little museum for just Beach Hill and the Carmelita cottages. So that's kind of funding that I'm looking for right now. All sorts of things. I think like this nonprofit or the Santa Cruz Hostel just has so many directions it can go in.
And since we are also caretakers of the park, plants and replacement plants for the garden are always welcome. And
indoor house plants.
Thank you, Tom and Cheryl on our board, for doing so much work in the garden. And
what do they call our garden? Like timepiece garden?
Well, it's historic. So the garden design is designed in order that the plants in the garden are period, from the period of the hostel. So we have a couple of people on the board who are great landscape historians and designers, and they have helped sort of redesign the garden to have some historic roses and such.
Oh, interesting.
And that'll be also part of the grant that we're getting, is making that rose garden ADA accessible and just kind of making it more of a spotlight for the front area of the hostel. It's going to be really beautiful.
Yeah, it'll be pretty.
Wow. It sounds like you're giving a lot of thought to the place and the meaning of the place in the stuff that you're doing. Can you talk about that a little bit?
I'd say it's really hard not to when you're at the Carmelita cottages to kind of not just absorb everything that's around you. It's really just a unique space, and I welcome anybody to just come in and walk onto our property and look at the huge trees. We have a redwood tree, a cypress, a tulip tree, just an old, neat space.
Yeah, some really mature, majestic trees on site, so it's beautiful. It's really shaded and just feels really nice.
And so I wanted to ask you a little bit, Terri, since I know that you have a wider knowledge probably of Santa Cruz in general. Can you talk a little bit about the downtown and the historic buildings and the value of them and where they came from? So, you said that those cottages were built probably or first lived in by sea captains. What else about downtown Santa Cruz do they hook into? What history do they hook into here?
The one thing that I know about it is one of the previous owners of the Golden Gate Villa was also the owner of the Carmelita cottages, and I don't know when that changed hands.
There's been so many owners that have passed through over the years, but the Beach Hill area was one of the first areas founded in the city of Santa Cruz. It's above sea level, number one, and being that a lot of the ships came to port in Santa Cruz, a lot of the sea captains just lived just uphill. Mm-hmm. And then the city of Santa Cruz kind of formed a little bit later. It is along the river and ended up being the connector between the mills above and the outgoing going out by a ship out to sea. Uh-huh. So it was pretty early that the Beach Hill area was founded, but it was sparse. Very few beautiful homes up there.
Mm-hmm. The city has a pamphlet for a walking tour, so there's a lot of really nice, beautiful old Victorian homes on Beach Hill. And if you look up online, you can bring up their walking tour, and the Carmelita cottages are part of it.
Oh, okay.
Mm-hmm.
Excellent. That sounds like fun. It's so funny. I know that when I lived in San Francisco, the only time I ever made it to on any of the tourist stuff is when family came to visit.
Mm-hmm. I feel like that's true.
So I'm thinking, that sounds fun. I've never done that.
Well, speaking of the family comes to visit, we do encourage locals to, think of us when you have family coming to town, because it's a nice place for the locals to visit while your family's there too. Come on down. So,
yeah, we just had a neighbor come and book. We have the Johnson Cottage, which is the biggest space we have on property, and it's 4 bedrooms, 2.5 bathrooms. And this summer they have a wedding that they're attending, and their family's all coming to town, and they have a 1-bedroom. So they are renting the Johnson Cottage, so that they're just right around the corner from everybody else that's going to be here.
So the family.
That sounds really fun.
Mm-hmm.
Really cool. So we're going to take a short break. You're listening to Talk of the Bay on K-Squid, and we will be right back.
Spend your Monday night at the Opera on KSQD Santa Cruz. You'll hear the world's greatest singers tell some of the world's most powerful, romantic, funny, and unforgettable stories, all set to the most glorious music ever composed. It's all about drama and being a diva. Monday night at the Opera, 7 to 10 p.m. on KSQD Santa Cruz 90.7 FM.
Quench your thirst for knowledge and good music with the most refreshing radio station in town. KSQD Santa Cruz 90.7 FM brings you the latest news and the catchiest tunes, so turn that dial to K-Squid.
And yes, we are K-Squid, and I'm going to read a little promo here that sort of connects in with what we're talking about today on Talk of the Bay. On July 6th, yes, it will be 2 days after we have a big influx of tourists, Save Our Shores will host a beach cleanup at Beer Can Beach. That's Wednesday. Oh, I read the date wrong. It's Wednesday, July 5th from 9 to 11 a.m. That is the day after July 4th, of course. Volunteers should wear closed-toed shoes, dress in layers, wear sun protection, and bring a filled reusable water bottle. All cleanup materials are provided, including buckets, grabbers, and gloves. However, you are also encouraged to bring your own. All volunteers must register to participate. Please meet at the top of the stairs to the beach off Via Palo Alto. Registration and more information can be found at their website, saveourshores.org. And that sounds like something that if people who are visiting Santa Cruz want to do something really Santa Cruz, picking up all the garbage the tourists left is a very Santa Cruz thing. So we are here at Talk of the Bay talking about a very Santa Cruz thing that you might never have heard of, which is the Carmelita Cottages, which these days is known as the Santa Cruz Hostel. And I'm speaking with Sarah Tinger, who is general manager of the Santa Cruz Hostel, and Terri Fisher-Mastick, the current president of the Santa Cruz Hostel Society. So let's talk a little bit about how, you're a relatively new transplant. When you came to Santa Cruz, what was your process of figuring out what to tell the tourists? Because there you are, and you're new to Santa Cruz too. So what did you see in Santa Cruz that excited you as a new transplant?
The beach is a huge draw. I really just got out and just experienced all the things that I thought I would want to recommend to guests. On Sundays, there's Salsa by the Sea, and that's just down the hill from us. So doing things like that, going out to the wharf for Taco Tuesday, went out to the Redwoods, rode the train, just everything. I mean, there's just so many things in Santa Cruz. One of our other board members invited me to do the paddle to paddle, so it's like the wharf to wharf, but you paddle from one pier to the other. So I did that with my kids and my husband. The four of us went and paddled. It's been amazing.
So you transplanted a whole family here.
I transplanted a whole family, yeah.
Wow. All right. And I won't even ask about being employed by a nonprofit and having to move to Santa Cruz, which just once again got the one of those dubious achievement awards. The latest one I read about was the most expensive rental market in the country.
Well, one of my very big perks is that there is a staff house and I live on site.
Wow. Okay, this is a job you're not giving up anytime soon. So is it the case that the last person was here like 95 years old? No, I can still do this job.
No, she had just decided to go back to the East Coast and be closer to family, but I was more than happy to pick it up. Yes.
That is quite a perk, especially here. I mean,
and I didn't know that moving here, and then being here, we get a lot of students that come stay with us at the beginning of the school year. We get a lot of people that
looking for housing.
While they're looking for housing, we get a lot of people that are here traveling and decide that Santa Cruz is their next place they want to move to. So I've felt their struggles through that because it's such a challenge. But for me, I came in, I think, the best way I could have came in with housing.
Wow. That's an amazing, you're very unusual.
Yeah.
And we kind of just lucked into Sarah because the project manager and our friend and a friend of Sarah's at the Monterey Hostel recommended her when we were frantically looking for a manager. He said, well, I can recommend Sarah, and so we're lucky to have her.
He called me up and said, do you want to move to California? And I looked at my husband and I said, you want to move to California? He said, sure. I said, all right, well, let's go.
Exactly. That was hardly a difficult decision-making process, apparently.
Especially since he was working remotely, so it was an easy move. My son had just started kindergarten, so he loves it here. He goes to Bayview.
Wow.
Yeah.
Great. So you've really, really just settled into Santa Cruz life.
Yeah, he's in junior guard, so we have the big competition tomorrow at Capitola Beach. Yeah, it's going to be a lot of fun.
You're more Santa Cruz than I am. My kids would never do junior guards. My goodness.
They are blending in really well.
And so when you manage a hostel, how is it different from managing a hotel or other like a motel? What is it that distinguishes your job besides the really wonderful free housing?
Yeah, I think for me at hostels, it's just making everybody feel welcomed and just making sure it's a happy space and that you're visible and there and people see you. And just involving, I mean, I have really good staff right now, and so just making them recognizable so that when people are at the hostel, they know who they can ask questions to, or what they want to do that day, or things like that.
Mm-hmm. Okay. So downtown Santa Cruz has seen, and Beach Hill and the whole area has seen some hard times. How do you fit into that? It sounds like you probably don't have any trouble attracting people to come stay. Do you have challenges because of the, various things that we've had trouble with, people being disruptive, that sort of thing?
We have requirements that you need to meet to stay at the hostel. So you have to be 18 years or older. You have to have a credit or debit card in your name, and you have to be paying for your own stay. Mm-hmm. So I think with those kind of 3 stipulations in, we really don't have too many issues. It's a very quiet, welcoming space. Quiet hours start at 10. We're very strict about our policies. There's no drinking hard alcohol. It's not a party hostel. You're coming to go to sleep with the sun and wake up with the sun and go hang out outside.
We're in a residential area, so we really encourage the travelers to adhere to the quiet hours.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
But we also have a fire pit outside that a lot of people enjoy. We have raised garden beds, and any of the guests are welcome to, share from that. But then letting them know that the space needs to be quiet at a certain time, or, we don't allow people to smoke on property, things like that. So just making sure that it's welcoming for everybody.
Okay.
But the job is kind of, 24 hours a day. You're always worried about the people staying with you just because you want them all to have a good time.
I kind of wanted to give a shout out to the city of Santa Cruz, too, because originally it was a 30-year lease on the property, and just recently the 30-year lease was coming to an end, so we worked with the city of Santa Cruz to renegotiate a lease that is continuing on for another 25 years. So thank you, City of Santa Cruz, yes. And thank you especially to Catherine Mintz, if you're listening, who we worked with very actively. So so anyway, it was I think they are happy to have us.
Mm-hmm.
I think because we do care for the park.
Mm-hmm. That's great, and it's such an unusual thing to live in a park.
Yes, right? Or to stay at a city park, Yeah,
well, it's unfortunately not that unusual in Santa Cruz, but
to stay in a bed in a city park.
Yes, to stay in a bed in a city park. There we go.
Another thing we kind of wanted to bring up is that we're one of a few hostels along this part of the coast, Pigeon Point just above us, and then Montara, and then on up into San Francisco, there are hostels. So they're kind of a day's bike ride apart.
Mm-hmm.
And so a lot of cyclists end up staying with us. And then Monterey, hopefully, is soon to open, and another bike ride away.
Mm-hmm.
So originally, with the earlier Hostel Society, it was sort of our goal to sort of create a string of hostels down the coast, and we've gotten a few.
Mm-hmm.
So, and unfortunately during COVID, a few of them ceased to exist because the tourist industry was really hit hard, and we managed to work our way through and are going strong.
Mm-hmm.
So, it's kind of nice to think of it as sort of a hosteling distance, apart.
Mm-hmm.
So.
And what's the one in Monterey? Where is that going to be located?
It's just above Lighthouse. It's near the aquarium.
Oh wow,
mm-hmm.
That's a nice location.
It's a great location.
A nice walk to the aquarium.
All right. So when you talk about hosteling, you're talking about a pretty extended network. What is the network that you belong to, and how does it work? And do you plan with other hostels? It sounds like you at least have this idea of, that hostels should be a bike days apart, that sort of thing.
I know we just try and promote each other and kind of have the kind of same rules in place so everybody kind of knows what to expect. Mainly just promoting each other and just trying to help each other out if you have challenges.
Yeah, and I do need to give a shout out to the Fort Ord Hostel Society. They are trying to create a hostel in Seaside and in the old Fort Ord area, and they're working hard to be able to create a hostel there. So give them a little bit of a shout out.
And is that a nonprofit also?
Yes.
And so are all hostels nonprofits?
Not all.
Not all. Okay.
So we're an affiliate to the Hostelling International. Hostelling International is nonprofit. Some of the affiliates are for-profit, but we are a not-for-profit affiliate.
Okay. Yeah, and that sounds like it's an obvious. I know that I just visited Fort Ord. Really, it's crazy to think that it's the first time I ever did this, but I went to see the vernal ponds because someone I knew down there was raving about them, and it's such an interesting place to go. And it'd be fascinating to stay there too. I assume that they could, try to renovate barracks and stuff.
Right. I think, and it's just really a beautiful view from their spot that they have. So I really hope it gets up and running.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So, and when you're a nonprofit. So it sounds like your nonprofit might have fewer challenges than, a lot of nonprofits have been having a lot of trouble. And you were saying that yours is largely covered by fees unless you want to do something extra?
Yes, that's the case. The fees, I'd say, hold down the fort. You know what I mean? And then if we do have any major projects, then we end up having to reach out for help otherwise.
Mm-hmm. Okay, so what you're mostly looking for is community involvement and in-kind donations.
And community involvement, just to come down and say hi and maybe be involved, or even invent a program that you might like to put on for the hostelers.
Oh.
It's like Sarah comes up with ideas, but we're welcome to other people. Like we have a poetry reading. Kind of once a year, and people come up with different ideas of different kinds of programs to have on site.
Mm-hmm. I really want to start reading under the redwood, so if anybody likes to read books to kids, you can come and, ask me about volunteering for that. We have a really beautiful redwood tree with a great space under it, and I just think it'd be a really enjoyable place to listen to a book.
So actually we have speaking of that, we have a lot of ideas, but we only have so much staff.
Yes.
So volunteers in that area would be great if you have ideas, or I like Sarah's idea of doing the reading under the redwoods as well, but she's really a busy person. So.
Or if you do that walking tour, you like doing that walking tour all the time, stop by and grab some guests and take them with you.
Mm-hmm.
All right. So what's in the future of the hostel? What are you looking to do? What are some of your goals for it? To a certain extent, it sounds like just keep it going, which you've done with the city of Santa Cruz and having the new lease. But what are some other things that you think could or should be done? Yeah,
I think that there's a huge need for affordable travel in Santa Cruz. So we're always looking for somebody that maybe wants to donate their space to us. To let us use. We book up in the summer really easily, so just having a place to kind of overflow to, maybe in a different part of the city.
Some overflow space would be good. We're soon going to have a conversation with our current board to decide how far we may or may not want to expand beyond the hostel, but we definitely, unfortunately, turn people away during the summer and looking for another venue, at least seasonal, maybe a seasonal space.
We also have our annual event in October. It's a fundraiser, and it's just celebrates our anniversary. So last year was our 30th anniversary and our first annual Beach Hill Bash. And then we are having our second annual Beach Hill Bash in October on the 14th from 1 to 4, and the Joint Chiefs will be playing, and we'll have a lot of fun things going on with vendors and local food trucks and things like that.
And that's at the hostel?
That's at the hostel.
So please
you
come
can
join
tour
us.
the cottages and, just get to know the board members and things like that.
There's fun and games at the annual event, at the bash.
Yes.
All right. So you, Terri, you've been a long-time resident of Santa Cruz?
Yes.
Okay. So we have a new resident and a long-time resident. What, if you were to talk to people, I assume you probably do talk to people who are staying at the hostel, what are some things that tourists don't necessarily do that you think people should do in Santa Cruz?
Well, I really like to get them up into the hills and hiking in the redwoods for sure. Things that people don't necessarily do. There's so much music around here.
So much.
It's like there's so many good artists. Just do seek out local music. It's really fun. I mean, most people are usually coming for the beaches and the boardwalk, but music is good. Cuisine is good. There's so many different kinds of restaurants to try.
Or if you're here for a First Friday.
First Friday is a lot of fun.
Yeah.
There's a lot of kind of the normal things that we would do around town that I would just encourage.
One thing I always recommend to guests is the Roxa Hammock Bar. I love that place. And it's just like elixir teas and a really comfortable space, and it's right by Abbott Square, and Abbott Square always has live music and fun things going on, so just a lively place to send guests.
All right. Well, I want to thank you both. I've been speaking with Sarah Tinger and Terri Fisher-Mastick about the Santa Cruz Hostel, and you can check them out at santacruzhostel.org and tell people you know from out of town to come visit. Or if you are listening in our extended listener area, come to Santa Cruz.
And we're located at 321 Main Street on Beach Hill, if you want to come on by.
All right. Well, thank you so much. And Talk of the Bay will return again tomorrow at 5 p.m. And you can check out the website, ksqd.org, for podcasts of this show and other shows. We do podcast our shows, so you can actually subscribe to our podcasts by going to our website, and they will have links to your favorite podcasting platforms. So please return again tomorrow for Talk of the Bay. Thanks, everyone.